We are going to go into our reflection portion, and I want to bring this back to DIY PD. Carol and Tan and I wrote this book because of our authentic need to find additional ways to learn about serving multilingual learners to supplement what we were getting in our personal contexts. And as Michelle talked about, this is a huge need that what we are presented or given in terms of professional learning does not always match what we need or what we're interested in or what is really going to turn the dial for students. So Tana and Carol and I came together to write this book just to provide teachers with a guide of ideas of how to forge your own path and make professional learning your own so that you can get out of it what you need. And we organized the book, being the language nerds that we are, around language domains and divided it into these 4 different paths. We have interpretive, and we assigned some action words to each of the paths. So in the interpretive path, you can read, you can listen, and you can watch. And interpretive formerly was called receptive. Those are kind of just when you're accessing the information, and those are great things to do on your own. And today you watched, so that's a great example of an action in that path. You watched some webinars, you watched presentations, and we also got to do some interacting too. The second path is expressive. And in that path, you can write, you can create, and you can even share knowledge by presenting. And so to follow up today, you might do some journaling or create something to solidify your learning. The interactive is connecting with other people. And there's so much power in connecting across the boundaries of your specific context. And that's why we gravitate towards social media, because we can connect with other people who are doing the same work that we're doing, that can inspire us because of avenues that they share with what we do and also ways that they're different in different contexts. And then extending professional learning, we say you can layer together different options and different actions. You can start to lead others by showing them how, like Michelle gave so many examples of leadership. And then the last one is innovate, and that's coming up with unique ideas and kind of forging paths that haven't been forged before. So our next piece is going to be some breakout rooms, because that is going to allow you to engage with other participants from the sessions today and start to collaborate, because there's a lot of power in sharing ideas and reflecting together and thinking about how we can continue the work by collaborating with one another. I also want to talk a little bit about how you can extend, because that's what we're going to challenge you to think about in your breakout rooms when you engage with others. How can you layer together some different pieces to continue what you've started learning about today? So maybe you'll get a copy of one of the books that our presenters wrote. Jeff Zweers has a new book called Overhauling Learning for Multilingual Students. I'm reading it right now. It's really good. It's giving me a lot of ideas about how to enhance what we've been doing in our classrooms to make sure students have authentic purposes for communicating. You can get a copy of Teaching Math to English Learners, which is one of Seidlitz's great action-packed guides that just is so easy to implement. That's why teachers love them, because you can just read it and digest it and get started on it right away. There are also some other books that presenters recommended as they were talking, which could be great as well. Maybe you decide you want to create something. Michelle gave us an example of her 1-5-15 bulletin as a way to share with others. So this could be sharing with your staff, sharing with schools, principals, admin, as ways to figure out how to kind of disseminate this information. Sometimes if you want to really jumpstart PD, you take on ownership of processing and synthesizing all of the bigger picture of what you've learned and honing it down to making it really digestible for other people, because time is something that teachers are always short on. So there was so much information today. Maybe you take on that responsibility of saying, okay, what is a 1 minute visual that I can have teachers engage in? What's something that they could digest in 5 minutes? And what's something that's maybe 15 minutes that they could access that's really going to help them with any of those 3 sessions we had today? Maybe you'll take on some leadership, lead a book study. If you get your hands on these great books, get a group together from your context and lead a book study so that you can kind of really dive in deeply and discuss what you've learned. Or maybe you want to present at a staff meeting. There's so many different things that you can do. Another one, if you see the middle, the play button with the 3 people, a fantastic way to utilize ML Summit is to wait until the videos are out and then have a watch party. Watch with a co-teacher, a colleague, or a group at a staff meeting and see what you can get out of it by watching it together and pausing and discussing. As Adrian was presenting, I was thinking when he was giving his numbered list of ideas, that would be a great segment to have teachers watch and then pause after each one and discuss and talk about. So there's so many ways that you can layer the learning to be a leader in your professional development context and inspire others. And then the ultimate goal is to innovate. What ideas could you come up with to meet the needs of the people in your context? People want choice. They want their expertise to be valued, but they want to be able to grow based on where they are in their learning. And if you get a group of teachers together, we're all in different places. So professional learning needs to be relevant to everybody in the room so that everyone can continue growing. So this is a quote that is in our book, but it is applicable because Jeff Swears was our speaker today. He said, "For too long, we treated students as consumers of ideas. Instead, our goal should be to see them as architects, engineers, designers, builders, and owners of ideas." And this is from his book, The Communication Effect. This applies to our professional learning too. We are architects and engineers and builders and designers of our own professional learning so that we can make sure it's continuing to grow and that it's relevant, because that is one of the most essential things, is that our learning is relevant to our context and what we do. There's nothing worse than sitting in a professional learning setting and feeling like this doesn't apply to me. So we can really take that ownership of figuring out what does apply and how can I make it work for myself, and also how can I inspire others and how can I pay it forward. So as we move on into our breakout rooms, we have some questions for you to consider. And if you scan that QR code, you can get your own copy of these slides in case you want to have these questions with you. The first one is, what are your biggest takeaways from today's sessions? There was so much learning and very different topics. So what really resonates and what are you taking away? The second one, what actions can you layer together to make professional learning more relevant for you and your colleagues? So will you read and then maybe journal or create a visual? Will you group watch and then come up with a way to lead? What will you do? And the third one, what new ideas do you have to support the professional learning of others? How can you pay it forward? And how can you inspire other people to have that same spark and interest in continuing to learn about best serving our multilingual learners? So Dr. Salva is going to help put us into some breakout rooms so that you can have some time to discuss. We're going to do 10 minutes in a breakout, thinking about how you can answer these questions. And then we're going to, in the spirit of what Dr. Zweers taught us, go into some different groups so that you can make your ideas stronger and further clarify by perhaps taking on what you've learned from your first group and adding it to your own ideas.